On this main screen, there's a lot of functionality that I'm going to skip over for now while I drill directly into a document. This is the core reviewer interface in Relativity. Note that I can jump back to the document list by clicking this link in the top left. At the top right, I have some options for configuring my display. I can show the document list above the native file viewer. I also have the ability to undock this record for multi-monitor review, and I can also switch my coding panes from left to right. In the upper left-hand corner, I have an indication of the document that I am viewing. In this case, it is AS01. You'll notice that my file icon gives a visual indication of the type of record being displayed below in my native file viewer. Here we have an envelope, so I know that it's an email. You'll notice that my cursor changes from an arrow to a hand when I hover over the icon, telling me that I have the ability to download a copy of this file locally, but only if I've been granted that right. In fact, depending on the security requirements of the case or the user, we can really lock down the system. You can prevent users from downloading the file, printing the document locally, copying text from the viewer, or even running a print screen. So, if you have a security-sensitive client that doesn't want any information to escape the contract reviewer's workstation, we can absolutely provide that level of security. In the upper right-hand corner, I have this collaboration tool. I'm able to email a hyperlink of this record to another member of the review team. If I want to click this envelope icon, it would fire up Outlook on my local machine with the URL in the body and the control number in the subject line. When another member of the review team clicks on the hyperlink, it would be able to authenticate with Relativity, and, assuming they have the rights to Relativity itself, the case, and the document, they would be bounced right into the core reviewer interface and the document in question. If they didn't have all the necessary permissions, that link wouldn't do them any good. The series of radio buttons above the document store the different versions of Relativity, or store the different versions of the document in Relativity. Now we're looking at the record in the native file viewer. I'll come back to that in a minute. I can also look at this document in its original application as a TIFF image of the document. That's whether we're doing some TIFFing on the fly inside of Relativity, if it's a paper-based collection where there's stuff that's been scanned and coded ahead of time, or if it's a smaller electronic collection that made sense to go to TIFF before review. I can also view the extracted text or the OCR associated with the record. Lastly, every time the document is produced, it stores a produced copy alongside the original for a quick, easy reference. I'll come back and talk a little bit more about that later in the demo as well. For now, let's go back to the native file viewer. KQRO licenses technology from Oracle Stellent called Outside In. It's the same technology you may be familiar with from a program called QuickView Plus. It allows us to get a high-fidelity static rendering of the file on the fly without the need to convert to TIFF, PDF, or HTML behind the scenes. So we can give users the speed and control they're used to in a TIFF-based review without the additional time and cost normally associated with conversions. Because we have licensed the technology and really integrated it, Relativity allows us to interact with native files in much richer ways than they would be able to in systems that convert to low-resolution TIFF behind the scenes. For example, we can go in and copy text right out of the viewer, and we can also submit it to a search engine. You can also use Relativity Analytics, which is a set of concept search, categorization, and clustering features right within the application. You can use Relativity Analytics, which is concept search, categorization, and clustering features right within the application. You'll also note that the terms relativity and document are already highlighted for us. This is a concept referred to as persistent highlighting. What this allows me to do is at any point in the review process, feed Relativity a list of terms, maybe it's a list of potentially privileged words or key players in the case, have them keyed out to the reviewers regardless of whether or not this is actual user-generated search criteria. These can also be color-coded for instant contextual recognition. Maybe magenta here is privilege, and green displays a key player. Here to the left, we have our persistent highlight tree. The persistent highlight tree allows users to control which hits they want to see and which term, and set the level and provide instant contextual recognition as to which hits are contained within the record and the frequency of those hits. These are completely securable from user to user and from group to group. Now I'm going to shuffle through a few different common file types and get a feel for how they render in our native file viewer. Here, the first one, we have an Excel spreadsheet. Notice that I still maintain some control over the document. I can resize my columns, get persistent highlight hits, and use these blue arrows to navigate from hit to hit. So if I were doing a keyword search and it returns 12,000 rows into an Excel file, like we have here, I can use the blue arrows to jump straight to my hit and have it keyed out for me instead of having to wade through the Excel nightmare. If we go back, here we have a PowerPoint presentation. See that I still have my persistent highlights, and I can use the blue arrows to jump from hit to hit within it, which will take me through the various slides in which those hits occur. Next, we have a Word document in Korean. Relativity is fully Unicode compliant, so you can load, search, and display foreign languages, double byte languages, and CJK characters. You can get persistent highlighting, tagging, and coding, and you can copy foreign words out of the viewer, paste them, submit them to a search engine, and TIFF them. All the functionality that you get with the English language documents is available for foreign language documents in Relativity. One of the pain points in native file review is that sometimes these files contain embedded content. Because the native file viewer only shows you the final versions of the document, it's not always clear to the reviewer that embedded content exists. In Relativity, we can actually configure the system to throw an alert to our reviewers to let them know that this type of data is present. Here we get an alert that says this document contains track changes and comments. Please view the image in the image viewer. I'm going to click OK, and it's going to flip me over to the image. As you can see, we were already able to TIFF this document on the fly with its track changes and comments included, and I can make the coding decision from there. Are there any questions or comments about Relativity's native file viewer before we go to redaction and annotation?